Cave with Mike and Max.
Welcome back to the Chat Cave here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Patreon at MikeMcGTV as well. And also follow my co-host, Mr.
Max. How's it going? Max at the Three Geeks podcast. You can find us at our all of our good podcasts at the 3geeks.ninja. You can find us on YouTube at Three Geeks Network, Twitter, Three Geeks Podcasts. I think we're on Facebook, Three Geeks Podcast. So yeah, just check us out on any of that stuff.
All right. We got the networking thing down pat at this point.
Yeah.
Please, any little bit helps.
Oh yeah, Patreon. We're on Patreon too with the Three Geeks Podcast.
Yeah, there you go. So, I know last time we talked a little Batman animation. I want to just throw this out there, actually, Max. Tomorrow is a very special day. Do you know what tomorrow is?
Other than Wednesday, I believe tomorrow is a anniversary of something special in America.
Yes.
The Dark Knight Returns.
No.
No?
No. It is actually July 4th, but it's going to be apparently the beginning of something new. Batman number 50 under Rebirth is coming out, which is the wedding of Batman and Catwoman.
I'm not excited about this. I just personally, I'm against marriage altogether as an institution. So to see the Gotham's most eligible bachelor finally go down, I'm not a fan of this. Hopefully, it's like the Joker or something in disguise, and it's not Catwoman.
I'm guessing there's going to be some kind of twist. There has to be. And it's not. Here's what I say about comics all the time. It's not going to be the status quo for long. At this point, I think the only marriage that's survived long enough has been Superman. And even then, they got rid of it for a little bit. And then they brought it back. And
did Peter Parker and Mary Jane stay married? Or
No.
They beg off again? Okay.
No, they've been off since Civil War because they sold their marriage to the devil to save a nonagenarian Aunt May, who's gonna die at some point anyways.
Okay, so what about? So the Richards is split up a few times, I think.
Yeah, they've been split up off and on here and there.
Who else is married?
The Hulk was married to what's her name, Betty, for a while, but I think that's off too.
Yeah, that's definitely off. No, yeah, you're right. No, they don't last.
Yeah,
like just 100% of comic book marriages just don't last. Well, maybe Batman and Catwoman will be, they'll change the game up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I want to see Batman have marital bliss. That's interesting. Here's the whole thing. There could be potential for a really good story there, but it's not gonna be a long-standing thing. Then again, I didn't think Damian was gonna stick around as long as he did. But
yeah, man, he caught on, and I don't know how that happened.
Yeah,
Damian Wayne is just around forever now.
The reason I brought it up is just because a couple of the local shops in the area are doing like a special midnight release event tonight, and I'm kind of like, just to get the book? No thanks. It's okay.
Yeah, you're not gonna go to the freaking
no.
What do you call it? The reception?
I'm not like that anymore. I don't. The last time I went to the midnight release for anything that wasn't like a movie, I remember I waited in line to get my copy of Arkham Knight when that came out.
Worth it?
Yeah, it was worth it then, because then I just spent. At least then I spent the rest of my morning playing Arkham Knight. What am I gonna do with Batman 50? I'm gonna read it, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, that was 15 minutes. Guess I'll go to bed now.
And you can read it again, Mike.
Sure.
You can pour over the panels.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great Batman artists on it, because they always wrangle in like 20 artists for the big events.
yeah, again, I'm not a fan of marriage, and comic book marriages never last. So this is not getting, it's not like, calling my bat phone. This isn't lighting the back signal up for me. But hey, I mean, I guess it's bound to happen at some point in time.
I just love that I spent a full minute like building up anticipation to that reveal, and your response was just, yeah,
man.
That's perfect.
I had no idea this is going down, and I'm going to write my local comic book artist to be like, hey, man, what are you guys doing to Batman? All right, this is not cool. This is not my Batman.
Your local comic book artist who probably has nothing to do with the book.
Yes, they're all connected. I know it's you got to start from the bottom and work your way up.
You're gonna call Brian. He's like, "What are you doing to Batman?" And he'll be like, "I write a completely different comic."
It's like, I wish I was doing Batman because independently funded kind of sucks. No, yeah, Brian. That's my first contact. I got Brian, and then I can also call Sean Forney there. I can give him a call and give him a piece of my mind about this.
Well, he's gonna be working on his Deadpool Pooh Bear.
That stuff is cool.
That is cool stuff. Check out Sean Forney's art. There you go, Sean. You got a free plug. So yeah, that's happening in the comics. We'll see how long that lasts. But you mentioned something a little bit earlier. It's a bit of an anniversary this month. Not quite tomorrow, but in a week or two. Will be 10 years since The Dark Knight was released.
And I'm just so awesome. I completely forgot to. That was kind of good timing, though, right?
Yeah, it was. I was like, I thought, did you just do that sound naturally? Was that Max?
I got the soundboard on my phone here. I forgot to silence it, but yeah, no, The Dark Knight Returns is just so awesome.
Dude,
it's one of the iconic Batman.
You're killing
novels.
me. No, not The Dark Knight Returns. The Dark Knight.
Oh, The Dark Knight, like the movie?
Yes, the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, goodness sake. I thought that was a bit short.
Oh man.
I'm so good at this.
I'm keeping all of this in now.
I hope you do, man. No, it's all good. No, freaking The Dark Knight, the best Batman movie ever made to date.
As good a Batman story as The Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the best Batman graphic novels. But yeah.
Yes. I feel like the impact The Dark Knight had on Batman film is near the impact The Dark Knight Returns has on Batman in comics.
I think a couple people have been bringing discussion points on the movie back into circulation because of the anniversary. Like, did you hear about Patton Oswalt's theory about the Joker in the movie?
No.
Okay, let me give you just the short version of it. Is that he believes that the Joker was actually a special forces person who suffered extreme PTSD and went crazy because it fits in a lot with his preparation, fits in a lot with how he can withstand interrogation techniques and things like that, and how he can actually kind of flip the interrogation on the interrogator. I recommend checking out Patton Oswalt's little dissertation on the Joker. But yeah, he released that I think a couple of months ago. I think because he knew the movie's anniversary was coming up.
Patton Oswalt is an old school fanboy, so like he does have a good grasp on things. There's another what was it, the rant that he went on for
it was his filibuster for Parks and Rec, I think.
Yes, that's what it was, the filibuster. And yeah, it was absolutely hilarious, but also it's like, yeah.
Makes sense.
No, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't yet. But here on the 10th anniversary, I just wanted to touch base really quick. Oh shit!
I hope you leave this in too.
I just realized you want to talk about something else first. I'm sorry. You probably wanted to wrap up with a positive note. Start off with something that's shitty and then build into something positive. So let's do that. Sorry.
Yes.
Table your good feelings for The Dark Knight, folks, because we're going to talk about something completely different now.
Yeah, man. I finally got to watch Batman Ninja,
Yeah.
and I was really excited when I heard about this, and I watched the trailer like 83 times, and I finally got to watch it, and it is so god awful. I couldn't even believe that DC let this out. I mean, their animation has been on the decline, I would say, recently, but this is just a whole new. This is the bottom. This gave them a whole new bottom, and it was like the animation doesn't look good, the writing isn't good, none of the characters really feel like they're characters,
Yeah.
and there's a Voltron in it.
There's a couple of Ultrons in it.
Well, I mean, there's Gundams, and then they all turn into a Voltron.
And then there are monkeys that
Oh my
become a
goodness,
giant
dude, the
monkey
monkeys.
robot thing, and then a giant Batman.
It's like there's so much ridiculousness in this movie. I mean, I would say go watch it, except that it's so terrible that I don't want anyone to go watch it. But I mean, like, yeah, they call like a billion monkeys because all the bad guys they've gotten all their castles that turn into giant robots that then fuse together to make one giant robot. And so Batman's got to fight them. So he calls an army of, I'm gonna say it's got to at least be 1.5 million monkeys.
Yeah, it's a lot of monkeys.
And then they all stand on each other's shoulders. So the monkeys at the bottom are dealing with God knows how much pressure.
Yeah, they're in a rough spot. Well, I want to correct you. It's not even Batman or Gorilla Grodd who's really in charge of the monkeys too much. It's Robin. Robin like befriends the head monkey or something.
Damian Wayne, Robin. Monchichi, is that what he called him?
I think so.
Oh my god! So it's like he's basically Chim Chim from Speed Racer.
Yes.
And
that's exactly what I thought when I first saw it. I'm like, is he gonna just freeze frame and be like, huh?
Yeah, if they would have gotten locked into the trunk of the Batmobile, I would have stopped watching immediately. But it was real bad. Yeah, so after the monkeys stand on each other's shoulders and form a giant monkey, then they feel like that's not enough. So they get 1 billion bats to come, and they team up with the monkeys to form a giant Batman.
Yep. Like old school Bob Kane looking Batman.
Yes. And the monkeys are the utility belt.
Yep.
And like, I mean, it's complete with cape and everything. Like,
it's a lot of bats.
It has to, like, I would like to get a scientist, to try to figure out exactly how many forgiving the fact that they're defying all laws of physics and gravity, like how many bats would it take to do that? Because they're not big animals. Oh man, it was so bad. Batman is complete, like the world's greatest detective, never in this movie. He's not even the world's greatest, like, fifth grader. Friggin' the scene, like, it's a time travel deal, and I hate time travel because it just kind of ruins everything.
Too many questions.
But it's a time travel deal, and he gets sent back to feudal Japan, and then he sees a piece of paper. It's got Japanese writing on it, and he looks around the scenery. He's like, okay, I'm in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of dudes run out, and they're all wearing Joker masks. And he's like, what is this? I'm like, dude, the Joker is obviously taken over in feudal Japan. And that was just the beginning. It starts there and gets worse. After, so he's got his fancy bat suit on, and after that, gets destroyed. He's like, well, what am I going to do now? I have no weapons. I have no technology. I'm like, you're Bruce Wayne. You're the world's greatest detective. You're a freaking ninja all by yourself. That's before you add any money or gadgets. And it seems like he's having this like crisis because he doesn't know what to do next. And since when does Batman not know what to do next?
Here's what I thought was there could have been potential for an interesting story. And here's where you and I might kind of split paths on this a little bit.
Cool.
I didn't hate it as much as you apparently do. I saw your Animaniacs episode on it, and Yeah, I don't have the vehement kind of like, oh God, no, no, no. Like I'm like, watch this and just laugh at how insane some of these choices are. Is what my recommendation would be. If you are even curious about seeing how someone can take a license and completely just distort the hell out of it, I'd say it's worth the watch for that. I agree with you. The animation, I thought it was fine, but it definitely isn't anything, let's say, worth seeing on a big screen. That's kind of how I felt about stuff like Killing Joke getting a Fathom event or anything like that. It's like, I think it would be perfectly serviceable on your laptop screen, and that's it. I do like the designs, though. The designs for characters, if you were to take them and put it in that setting, they're not half bad, or there's actually some kind of ingenuity in some of the designs. It's just the characterization and story is not there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as still art, a lot of it works, and a lot of it's very good. But once you, I don't like the way they animated it, and yeah. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I agree. Like the Bane,
yeah,
I thought that was
Bane.
awesome. Yeah, and I liked Poison Ivy. Catwoman was okay, but I like the Joker actually. But yeah, like as the still art,
right. It definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it was a bit of a letdown on that regard, because I was actually hoping I'm in your camp. I wasn't really a fan of the time travel idea. I much rather would have preferred, hey, it's an Elseworlds tale. Let's talk about feudal Batman. If Batman was actually in feudal Japan.
Yeah, like a Gotham by Gaslight, except
good
Japanese.
Yeah, and good. As opposed
to the comic book.
yeah, that's what I meant. The Gotham by Gaslight movie. Holy shit.
Oh my god. No. So bad. And that's what I was saying, the decline. But I would watch that Gotham by Gaslight 10 times before I watched freaking Batman Ninja again.
Really? Whoa.
Oh, dude. Without it being a drinking game of some sort, or like I lost a bet.
Oh, okay. See, I'm automatically at drinking game stage with Batman Ninja, so it's not even.
Yeah, but I had, part of the problem is my expectation.
Right.
The story, like I didn't know what was gonna happen, but it was just nothing. I mean, if you would have told me that all the villains each get a castle that turns into a giant robot, which they then form Voltron with, I would have slapped you in the face. I was like, there's no way they get past, there's no way that DC allows this.
Well, the one thing I couldn't stop thinking is that, yeah, these are super criminals, but there's no way they're this smart to build stuff like this.
Or how
did they explain why, even if it is in feudal Japan and only the characters themselves got transported there, why the technology is so advanced still for their castles? Did they say like Grodd had something to do with that or not?
No. They just did it.
Okay. All right.
No apologies, no explanations.
Someone let us know if there was like a line of dialogue we missed where Grodd was like, "Oh, I built all that because I'm a super smart ape." Then fine, but
oh my goodness, and it's like he gets there and Batman does talk about it. It's like, oh well, the Industrial Revolution shouldn't have happened yet, and these guys got like heavy machine works here. But I mean, in the time that they had, it was 2 years from when the villains got there to when Batman shows up. And there's no way to advance. So, I mean, like, I understand being ahead of the game, but there's no way to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're
that's
very
just not possible.
They're very dedicated, Max. They're very committed to the craft.
Oh,
you know what? Yeah, Come to think of it, I think there was a line. I think Grodd said, like, yes, I helped them with their stuff so I could eventually take over the giant feudal Japan mech. But it doesn't.
Still, I'm just saying, like 2 years is not enough time. Like because they have to build the infrastructure. You know what I'm saying?
Like, what do they call it? The Arkham Castle.
Yes.
Like that's half the city, and it's just the big mobile foundation, and you're like, wow, that's a big contract for some construction crew or something.
Yeah, like. Oh my goodness. It was just utterly absurd.
But that's the thing, is like, I'm like, oh, this is so absurd and so stupid, but I'm like, I can chuckle at it a little bit. It's definitely not what I would consider to be like, oh, faithful Batman adaptation.
No, I mean just because like Batman was so inept, like he with the Joker, like the Joker is pretending to be a farmer, and he's like, oh, he's obviously lost his memory, and he's just trusting that. Like, so when does Batman trust anything? It hit that button for me. Like my fanboy just went off in a bad way.
Here's what I'm curious about. Too.
Like looking back now, definitely if you're having fun with it, if you know it's terrible going in, it's going to be a good laugh.
Right.
But don't go in expecting anime Batman awesomeness, because it is not that.
I'm genuinely curious what the Japanese script is like, because the Japanese script is supposedly drastically different from what they did in the English dub. I'm wondering, I mean, probably not that drastically different because, of course, all the animation beats are exactly the same, but I'm kind of wondering, like, does it sound less stupid in Japanese?
I hope, I hope for at least that, because when we were talking about it too, like maybe if we watched it in the Japanese with subtitles, it would have been better.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wondering. Is like,
but subtitles don't change the fact that they form Voltron. Like you can't take that out. There's no talking around your giant bat monkey Batman.
Unless in the Japanese script there's a line saying, "This is all metaphorical. This is all what's going on in the mind." No one actually went back in time. This is just Batman having a near-death experience.
Yes, that would have been the line of dialogue to change everything. Oh my goodness.
Watch, I go like
bad.
I'll go to like Den of Geek, and that'll be exactly what it was.
Oh man, but how did people get paid for this?
Very easily. I mean, you've seen a lot of DC products lately. People get paid for some really dumb shit.
That's true. I just don't understand. Like, I mean, if you have 10 millionaires in a room and they're all like, okay, this is a good idea, and no one is like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, thankfully, one of the good ideas that they had 10 years ago was The Dark Knight. So, segue.
Yes.
Shall we cleanse our palate now with maybe reflecting fondly on Mr. Nolan's little film that could?
Yes, we shall. I'm gonna have my little sherbet here.
There you go.
And let's actually, I do need to grab a beverage real quick. Sorry.
All right. So while you're doing that, if you haven't seen The Dark Knight yet, folks, please go watch it. Of course, if you haven't seen The Dark Knight at this point, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, because we've gone in ad nauseum about the Nolan movies. We dedicated a whole second episode to The Dark Knight's follow-up, which is definitely a lesser product than its predecessor.
Oh my goodness. Dark Knight Rises is so bad.
Okay, here's the ultimate test. Would you watch Dark Knight Rises over Batman Ninja? Oh, really?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I would, because of Bane and his crazy Bane voice. I would have to watch The Dark Knight Rises over Batman Ninja, but
so ultimately, the saving grace of both movies turns out to be Bane for you.
Oh no, okay. You can't
Sumo
give
Bane
it that
and
much credit.
Okay, Sumo
It
Bane
doesn't
and Tom
save
Hardy.
Batman Ninja. There was one tiny thing that little, so it's not all crap.
Okay.
They did a few things right. So you can't, but yeah, so they did a few things right, and so I don't want to crap on the whole deal, because I like to give credit where credit is due. But The Dark Knight Rises, the plane takeover scene, I dug that. That was some really cool stuff for me, and that's the unexpected things that you like to happen. You're like, I did not go into this movie thinking that we'd get something like this.
Okay.
And they do it. But then also, Batman has been taking a break for 8 years, and then he whips up a little knee brace deal, and now I can kick through walls without breaking my foot.
That is a sample of our episode 2 discussion. So be sure to check out that
But yeah,
episode.
the Dark Knight. It built, and that's the other reason why the Dark Knight Rises. Again, because your expectations, your hopes were all with the Dark Knight. It's so good that even I mean, we'll call the Dark Knight Rises mediocre. That level of the drop off was immense.
And honestly, I was thinking about this a little bit before we even logged on here to converse. Was, comic book movies, there are certain milestones, there are certain points. Certainly something like Superman the movie opened the doorway for comic book movies to gradually be taken seriously. And then you'll have stuff like Blade, X-Men, Spider-Man. And then came The Dark Knight, which kind of proved like not only can comic book movies be taken seriously, they can tread into becoming prestige pictures.
Yeah. I don't know that we've been back to this like level. I mean, maybe Winter Soldier kind of got there,
Yeah.
but it's the Dark Knight. Is like, they didn't ever do a comic book movie like this where it's a cop drama, but it's just it's got some Batman in there,
right?
and no one had taken that that approach to it before. And yeah, it was all the better for it. I mean, it's just so awesome. I mean, and then you get this Joker, Heath Ledger, just murdered that role.
Yeah, pure like anarchy, pure almost animalistic at times, but you took him seriously, and there were points that he's legitimately funny.
Yeah, and you find yourself wanting him. It's like he's gonna do terrible things, but you want him around.
Absolutely.
And that's really odd. Like you're like, okay, well, he's probably gonna kill this school bus full of children, but I'd like to see that. He just took over that role, and it was incredible. And kudos to the writers, kudos to Heath Ledger, and kudos to Nolan for seeing like, okay, we've got something here. I don't know how much was directed and how much was just just kind of he let it happen.
Yeah, him inhabiting the character. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's so good. Like,
yeah, I feel that release also kind of steered the course for comic book films, not just with regards to being taken in a more serious light, but also it made the competition, I think, wise up to the game that we have now with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because a couple of months before, Iron Man was released, and they had their little Nick Fury tease at the end. Maybe that was just thrown in at first for a little bit of, Easter egg for the fans who wanted to see Sam Jackson as Nick Fury since The Ultimates. Sure. After Dark Knight came out, I can't help but think that, like, the Marvel execs were kind of gathered in a room one time and thinking, like, oh, damn, that is pretty big. We gotta find some way to step up our game. And maybe they kind of predicted that a lot of the other competition was going to try to Nolanize everything, because Dark Knight, I mean, Batman Begins certainly had its darkness and its earnestness, but Dark Knight really kind of put comic book movies in that place for a while where everything tried to be really dark and gritty. They still are trying to do that, with the exception of the Marvel stuff. And I can't help but feel like Marvel's like, okay, everyone else is going to try to corner the market on this dark and gritty Nolan lens for their properties. Let's do something different. Let's make it a fun shared universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's and Marvel movies always have that, like, they are a little bit lighter, and Disney owns them, so it's always a little more kid friendly.
Well, Disney didn't own Marvel Studios at that point. They only got Marvel in 2009, so we'd had Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, which did have a crossover shortly, but even then I was kind of thinking like, okay, that's another fun tease. I don't think they really have an idea of how they're going to bring the Avengers to the big screen yet. Like, I feel definitely the Dark Knight kind of made them step up their game and be like, okay, if we're going to do this, we got to do this because everyone's going to try to ape this style, and we need to throw something else out there.
I mean, I feel like Marvel had the plan through the to the Avengers, but not past the first Avengers movie.
Right.
And then Disney was like, all this money, we need to get in. But the Dark Knight, it definitely, because Iron Man made a bunch of money and everyone loved it and it was really solid. But then the Dark Knight adds this whole another layer of credibility or what's the word for?
I said prestige earlier.
That's the perfect word. It adds that whole next level to it where you can get this drama, this like you can get the it's a lot of talking and it's a lot of Batman just like being somewhere or he's trying to figure something out and that's the boring stuff of Batman but that's it's all in there and it still works. I mean freaking $1 billion it grossed.
People in film schools are dissecting this movie.
Right.
We live in that world now where a Batman movie is the foundation for a lot of people's probably like final thesis.
No, it was just incredible. I remember I saw this movie 3 times before I realized that I didn't imagine it in my head. I had to go see it again just to make sure it was as good as I thought it was.
Yeah, I remember when I went to go see it, I was still in Athens, Ohio, for that part of the summer at least. I had just woken up. I was hungover from the night before. And then I realized, like, oh, I'm supposed to meet my friends over at the Easton Mall in Columbus to go watch The Dark Knight in, like, 3 hours. So I drove on out that way, sat down in the IMAX theater, and was just like, even though my head was killing me, I stayed alert. I stayed attentive to that shit. It demanded your attention really well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would have gone and like if I had just had my freaking leg amputated the day before, I would have gone and saw The Dark Knight, the first Batman movie to not have Batman in the title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a bit of a challenge too. I was like, are people gonna know to come to the movie if it doesn't have Batman in it? Like, I didn't give audiences, I didn't give them that much credit. I still don't, but
yeah, it's just and then you have such like there's so many good actors in here. Christian Bale, with the exception of Bad Boys, does a great job. Aaron Eckhart, Heath Ledger, obviously, Gary Oldman doing the crap out of a Commissioner Gordon.
He's always like the great silver lining of all these projects.
And it was so good. And then that year, obviously, like Hulk, Iron Man, Batman, it was just we hadn't had comic book movie years like that yet.
That was really kind of the beginning of it. Yeah.
And so and then so you get out of the you get out of the Hulk, you're like, all right, that was solid. You get out of Iron Man, you're like, all right, I'm picking up what they're putting down here. And let's see what the other guys got. And the ball was teed up and they knocked it right out of the park. It was just the perfect ending to it. Yeah. And I don't know that we'll ever catch that sort of storm of, it's like after Michael Jordan played, everyone just gets compared to Michael Jordan. And there hasn't been a thing to take over that spot yet.
They keep trying. DC keeps trying to live back up to that expectation.
They're not trying very hard, if you ask me.
I mean, the thing is that I don't know where they kind of lost touch with the idea that it's not about making it uber dark. It's about, being honest with it and giving it a certain degree of reverence. There's serious moments laced throughout some of their film projects, but not to the point of sincerity that there is in The Dark Knight, I don't feel.
Yeah, no, I have to agree.
And again, the thing is that works for Batman. And they tried to do it with Superman, with Man of Steel, and that was very much a mixed bag of stuff at best. And
I enjoy Man of Steel. I liked that Superman was a little darker in that one because he hadn't figured out who he really was yet, or or what he wanted to be as Superman. I feel like the drop off really came with Batman versus Superman when he's still that kind of angsty, sullen Superman, and you're like, Superman gets to fly around the planet every day. Like
right.
He can lift. He saves. Saves the people in the when that rocket explodes, and he saves the people, and I'm just like, Superman enjoys saving people. Like he enjoys being Superman. And it's not true to the character when you make him sad guy.
You can gussy up Superman a little bit. You can maybe make his origins a little bit more of a harder science fiction type thing. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that they got very right with regards to the Dark Knight stuff was that they didn't forget where the character takes its roots from. If they were to make a very sincere, upfront version of Superman, you're right, they'd throw in a little bit more of the wonderment. It doesn't have to be like all smiles and Christopher Reeve. That worked for that era. Right. You can make it a little bit more serious, but at the same time, you have to remember, like, this character came from a very hopeful origin point.
Yeah.
Batman, The Dark Knight, that's gritty, that's detective, that's noir, that's a bit more of a bleaker outlook. That's perfectly fine for Nolan and company to do.
Yeah, but it's just like, again, it's the outlook. It's not true to the Superman. I don't even like Superman, and I was like, they're kind of ruining Superman. But yeah, because he was more of like if Batman had Superman's powers versus Superman.
Yep.
And I think that kind of shown through, unfortunately, and that's why people didn't gravitate to it as well. But and in The Dark Knight, I mean, they just hit every point, and it was true to the characters, and they found a way to modernize it, but still give you the core of what you'd grown to love.
Yeah, it's a lot of, like you mentioned before, it's a lot of dialogue, it's a lot of character work, and there are action sequences certainly, but they're honestly very kind of, I won't say reserved, but more grounded than they ever were in previous Batman movies. Even the Batman movie before it, there's no giant train crash in this movie. I think what's the biggest thing that happens in Dark Knight, like spectacle-wise? What's the biggest? Is it just the big the truck and the Batpod? Is that like the biggest action sequence there is?
The chase scene with the semi truck and the Batmobile into Batpod.
Otherwise, everything else is just like standoffs with goons and I guess Joker does blow up a hospital. So.
Right, but that was just like get everyone out of the hospital, and then it blows up. It's not right. It was then it wasn't it wasn't the scene to friggin' end it all. And even in that scene, it's just like Batman is like, okay, get on the elevator, go up the building, beat up the people, and then and then throw some Rottweilers in there, and we'll call it a scene.
Yeah, Batman's biggest hurdle in this entire movie is he just can't deal with dogs. Like even changing up his armor, he has to factor in, like with Lucius, he's like, is it going to stand up against dogs?
They were big dogs.
Yeah. They were cute too. Like
the Beijing scene when he does the jump off the one building to the other. I had that as my my desktop background. I had a picture of Beijing because I was just like, Batman jumped off of that building into that building, and you could see it, and then that's like it. It was a real thing, and I don't know, they just captured me. Like I love that. That was probably one of my favorite parts. Is
if there was CGI trickery, it's really well masked. Like even the Two-Face stuff, that's pretty convincing.
I haven't watched it in a while. I'm going to watch it again probably here right after we get done. But
don't lie, you're going to be watching Batman Ninja now that I.
I gotta. Every time something dumb happens, I'll drink, and then I'll probably get through about maybe 7 or 8 minutes. But no, it's Two-Face was another good surprise where you're just like, wow, that really worked well. The explanation for it was again, they modernized it without taking away from it.
Yeah.
And the effect of it, the actually, the way it looked was really good.
Yeah.
I don't know how it stacks up now, years later,
It's
but
it still looks good, man. Compared to a lot of CGI we see these days, it still looks good. He's way more convincing than Steppenwolf's face.
goodness sake. Yeah, and that's the approach to CG that I prefer. I like a minimalist, approach. Like, use it to enhance something that you actually did. Don't use it to just make up something that's not there.
Right.
So yeah, and then that's another fine point. It's just the light touch that makes it believable and makes it real. Makes it more real.
Everyone this past summer has been all about, like, oh man, Infinity War. What a depressing way to end a summer blockbuster. Excuse me. The Dark Knight pioneered that shit way before Infinity War. I remember leaving the theater and being like, Jesus. The biggest, like, guilt complex ridden ending to a superhero movie I've ever seen. I'm like, Peter Parker doesn't kick himself this much.
Oh man, no,
Batman's like, just shoot me, Harvey. Shoot the ones that you blame. I'm like, Jesus, dude. This is some Deer Hunter shit right here.
And then it's like, yeah, hey, your girlfriend's dead. Your this guy that you respected he's dead. Yeah, you are the main cause of it, and also you still got to go out there and punch people in the face and save the city.
Right. That was, if anything, that's the one part of the movie that, in retrospect, I'm kind of like, you don't really have to go that extra mile, Batman, at the end of this and become the bad guy, because and again, it's putting logic into this movie, but because this movie's so grounded, I can't help but do that.
Right.
Is thinking like, there's probably a lot of hard evidence that would have exonerated Harvey for all the bad shit he did. Half his face was blown off by a sadistic clown who's in custody and who is a very unreliable witness. So I think Gotham would have let him, they wouldn't have been like, oh, Harvey, forever and now the devil.
Oh, yeah, no, there's no way you can not look sympathetically at Harvey Dent. He's a victim.
Yeah.
And his mind was broken from that. Yeah, and that's totally understandable.
He would have been a way more effective martyr if you just told the truth. Like, dude, these criminal assholes did horrible stuff to both him and his girlfriend.
All right, so this is what gets me too. Is they were totally unafraid to replace Katie Holmes with Gyllenhaal, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't replace Heath Ledger. And I understand, obviously, Heath Ledger killed that role, and Katie Holmes is just kind of meh, whatever. But you've replaced actors in the past, so there's a precedent for it. And this is where the other reason I feel like The Dark Knight Rises was just, a drop-off is because they refused to replace Heath Ledger, even though the Joker was supposed to be a part in the third movie.
Well, Nolan has gone on the record in saying, yeah, he intended perhaps to come revisit the character in a sequel again. But here's the thing. Katie Holmes didn't die. She just left the role. Maggie Gyllenhaal, the character died, certainly. She's still around to work. When you establish like a strong work ethic and a strong working relationship with an actor and something like that tragic happens, I can completely understand why he's like, I really don't want to revisit that character. That was, like you said, that lightning in a bottle experience for him, not just as a storyteller, but as a filmmaker and possibly as a friend to that guy. So I kind of get why he's like, nah, let's never come back to the Joker. It's a little too raw.
It just it was hurt for that, and I mean, and if we can agree with Nolan, or if you can sympathize at least, and I do sympathize, it's not just that an actor died, his friend died, or this guy that he was his good work buddy died. and that's not easy to get over. But I feel like that is another reason the movie suffered so bad. It lost quality because you did write this movie for that character, to be in it, and then you had to change it all around that. I mean, and it's just sitting there as the elephant in the room.
Look at it this way, man. It could have gone south. You could have gotten Leto Joker a couple of years earlier.
I mean, but I would have at least he would have tried it, And he's like, hey, apparently nobody's Heath Ledger, but we wrote this part for the Joker, and the Joker needs to be in the movie. I would have appreciated that more than, okay, well, we're gonna have kind of Scarecrow do this thing, and we're gonna have a little bit of that for whatever, and again, I can sympathize why it happened the way it did. It's I'm not so callous that I'm just gonna be like, get over your feelings, do what I want.
Suck up your tears, Chris.
There's no crying in Batman.
Oh, he'll be like, what? There's shit tons of crying in Batman. Batman spends at least an hour every night crying on a roof somewhere.
But
he's probably gonna do it at the honeymoon, but not for the same reasons. I'm sorry I can't perform, Selena. It's just there's still so much crime.
What if I put on the mask? Anyway, I just feel like they didn't want to try it all, and I would have loved to give somebody another shot. I mean, because the whole reason that Heath Ledger was so loved in that role is because he took it and he did his thing with it. You can let somebody else. I mean, like Jared Leto tried it and it was not great.
Yeah, but
he was also only in the movie for like 10 minutes, so
it wasn't his movie. Yeah.
Wasn't anything. I don't know who I would have gotten. I don't know how it would have played out, but I wish they wouldn't have tried to write around the character instead of just going for it.
Well, you're in luck, Max, because in this day and age of entitled fandoms, apparently the fandoms can just go and make their own version of the movie if they want. You want a different Last Jedi? Fuck it, we're gonna go make it. You want a Dark Knight Rises with the Joker in it? You can probably make it.
I'm just going to get on Kickstarter. All I need is $500 million, and I will remake The Dark Knight Rises.
Just take out Bane, put in Joker.
No, I'd keep Bane. I'd actually keep Bane all the same. I liked him.
Oh, did I tell you? There is a YouTube vid of, lost Joker scene in The Dark Knight Rises where they justify Bane being shot at the end of the movie, and it turns out the Joker just happens to show up and be like, did you miss me? That would have been kind of cool, because Joker's like, no one kills you except me, Batsy.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this dance forever, which we won't do unless you get that bomb out of here, so go do that.
Yeah, go fly like 500 feet off the shore, but somehow magically make it all the way away.
Again, see our episode 2 review.
Yeah, I need to quit falling down that rabbit hole. But
it's so easy. But again, like you said, that just speaks volumes about the impact and the resonance that Dark Knight has. Nothing's gonna top that, man.
No, I mean, because with as good as Batman Begins was, we were like, holy crap! I didn't realize they could make this Batman movie, and then to just ramp it up to 11.
Yeah.
With The Dark Knight, it was unexpected. I did not, because I was expecting something more along the lines of Batman Begins.
Mm-hmm.
A little clunky, but a lot of fun, a little more real world, but solid but not great. And this was just absolutely great.
One final question I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of The Dark Knight, instinctually, first thing that comes to mind, what is the first scene that you feel kind of captures the spirit of that movie for you?
The Joker, the first Joker scene where he meets the mob bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in there, and they start talking about him. They don't, I obviously don't know he's going to be there. Then he just does that dude with the pencil. That is it for me. I'm fully on board, but if I had to sell it by anything, it would be that scene, just because it Before this, you don't think they would do any of the stuff that they do, but after this, you're like, you guys can do anything. So yeah, it had to be that scene for me. What about you?
It's a toss up. It's a Batman Joker scene. It's either facing down in the street, he's about to just run him over and he doesn't, or interrogation.
Oh, the interrogation scene was so good. The way you just threw yourself after.
For a while I thought you were dead.
Yeah, no, that is a great scene too. Wow. Yeah, that's and that's the thing. I'm finding myself wishing I would have said that. It's just, but how do you even pick and choose? But the first thing for me is just like when he's like, "Hey, you want to see a trick?"
Is Ledger Joker the most quotable Joker at this point? Because, for a while people loved Nicholson's lines in the 89.
This town needs an enema.
Some people I've heard, like to spout off all of Leto's lines. All 2 of them.
No.
Some Hamill stuff, certainly. The Killing Joke monologue. But is Ledger at this point the most quotable Joker?
I don't think so, actually. I still think Nicholson has it.
Okay.
As far as like just random movie quotes, where does he get those wonderful toys? I feel like Nicholson is more quotable, but Heath Ledger is the Joker to me.
Right. Let me rephrase that.
Let
me rephrase that then. Is Ledger's Joker the Joker acting students go to for their monologue auditions?
Yes. It's,
there we go.
It's like, if you are going to be in a Batman cartoon, you have to try not to do Mark Hamill because you want to, because that's the staple. That's, what's worked the best. But you can't do that. So you have to actively try not to do that. And I feel like from here on out, you have to actively try not to be Heath Ledger because you want to, because that Joker works so well, and he did it so well. Right. So yeah, I feel like Heath Ledger is definitely the guy they're looking at, when they're like, okay, I like that, I can maybe pull some things from that, but I can't do that because everyone's just going to think I'm a crappy knockoff of Heath Ledger.
That's what I was thinking. Again, coming back to Leto for some reason, I don't know why I'm fixated, but whenever you see scenes with him, I couldn't help but think like he's lifting from Ledger here and there, like a mannerism, a tone of his voice. It's too close at times, and I'm kind of like, it makes sense though because it was only a couple years prior, so that would be what's kind of in the cultural zeitgeist.
Oh yeah, and he was the first person to pick it up after Ledger, so it was just, and then all you hear about is how Ledger was so method and he got into the character, and then Leto is doing this, he's getting yada yada, and just like Heath Ledger, is he gonna be okay? Blah, 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 and as the movie was going on, well, the comparison was already there.
Here's the thing with Ledger getting into character and going method, at least he had the decency to kind of, ultimately it might have played a factor in his mental issues, but at least he had the decency to kind of keep it to himself. Like he wrote in a journal the Joker's thoughts and things like that, and that's how he stayed in character. Leto, yeah, he goes method certainly at times, but then there's parts where you're like, are you just trying to be an asshole to people? Like he mailed condoms and dead rats to Will Smith and Margot Robbie because
I heard the rats weren't actually dead.
They weren't?
No.
Okay. Good. Well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, I understand you want to get in a mindset and you want to have a certain rapport with other characters in the movie, but I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah, all that stuff again was just like, okay, well, your poor man's imitation of Heath Ledger is not gonna fly here, and like, oh, okay, Heath Ledger wrote in a journal, so I'm gonna get super crazy. I'm gonna send rats to my to my co-stars here, and I'm gonna just do all these crazy things and I'm gonna wear the makeup all day or whatever. And it's just like,
to really get in preparation for this character that's only gonna be on screen for 5 minutes, I'm going to act like someone you don't want to spend more than 5 minutes around.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you got to do, man. No, I fully think that Heath Ledger is the marker right now. And like, if you're gonna be in a Batman, live action movie, that you gotta look at it and see this. You gotta capture the spirit of what he captured too, but you can't do Heath Ledger.
Truer words never spoken. You can't do Heath Ledger.
Nah, it's not. I mean, people will see right through that.
I'm sorry, I was trying to think of doing the More You Know thing from NBC. And a rainbow shoots across the sky.
Yes.
Now I'm going to go watch The Dark Knight now. Thanks, Max.
Oh, man, it's so worth it.
God, that's what talking about The Dark Knight does for you. It gets you in the mood to really just sit down and watch The Dark Knight. So if you haven't yet, hopefully us talking about The Dark Knight has put you in the mood to sit down and watch The Dark Knight.
Oh, God. The first bank robbery scene. Sorry.
Are you watching it right now?
Oh, no. I don't know. Again, like, how do we not talk about that? When he goes and he kills everybody. And it's just like, yeah, you can see the Joker doing that. We would have never thought that anyone would do that, especially not in a movie.
Max, I think you and I, at some point, will have to perhaps collaborate on a little feature-length commentary regarding The Dark Knight.
Oh, man.
I feel
I'm
that's
100% down for that.
That's coming in the works, certainly.
But okay, sorry, that was the last little thing. How could you have a podcast about The Dark Knight and not talk about that first bank robbery scene, or the non-origin of the Joker? That was just beautiful writing where he tells a different lie to everybody all the time. And no one knows where he came from or what's going on.
Oh yeah, well, just like he is in the comics for the most part, just a big walking question mark.
Yeah, love it.
I do like the one little thing in that opening scene of him on the street corner. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but in the distance, blurry in the shot, is a marquee for a movie theater, and the movie poster in the marquee is for Spider-Man 3. It's emo Peter Parker ripping open his shirt to reveal the black Spider-Man costume.
Oh my goodness.
So.
Oh my goodness.
Let that bother you on your repeat viewing.
Oh man, never mind. The Dark Knight's
ruined. You're flipping to Batman Ninja now.
Yeah. I'll watch Batman Ninja 30 times before I watch The Dark Knight again.
That's all it takes is Tobey Maguire showing up.
Pretty much. That'll kill anything for me.
That's what we do on To the Chat Cave. We ruin Batman for you. And I hope your Batman experience has now been rewarded and ruined all at once, dear listener. You've been listening to The Chat Cave here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me, follow the Three Geeks podcast here on YouTube or at 3geeks.ninja or on Twitter, and our Patreons, of course. Check out The Dark Knight. You can probably skip Batman Ninja, right, Max?
Oh, now you're right. You were absolutely right. I was just too close to it. I was feeling a little bit emotional, but it does work as a joke or as a drinking thing. Like, let's get just shithoused and joke about this with the friends. It works for that. But if you are expecting something good, you need to come down like 4 levels before you go watch that movie.
And if anyone is going to be reading Batman number 50 for the wedding, let us know how it turns out. I'd love to know. I might buy it eventually, but I don't really buy that many comics anymore individually. So
yeah, I can't do monthlies, man.
Yeah.
I hate it. Because like you said, it's 10-15 minutes and then you're sitting there just left wanting more,
Absolutely. Well, that's what Batman does. He leaves us wanting more.
But we'll catch you guys. Same chat time, same chat channel, Mike GTV.
McGTV.
McGTV.
Smodcast.com. Bye.